Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I'm Tom Betts, your host. This is episode number 139. It's actually season 8, episode number 9, but overall number 139. Today we got some oddballs to cover, but we're going to talk about the history of the Spaghetti Western and Colorado Charlie. That's a rare one. Whatever became of is Dan Sturkie. And who are those guys? Is Stefan Zacharias. Both of those appeared in They Call Me Trinity. Film of the week is Have a Nice Funeral with the great Johnny Garco. Got an autograph. We got Book of the Week. Got several posters for you. And then we've got a CD and 45, and we'll wrap things up with News of the Week. So let's get going with the history of the Spaghetti Westerns and Colorado Charlie. Okay, this is a 1965 Italian film production. The Italian title, there's two of them, is Un Meticcio Chiamato Cimitero and Colorado Charlie. The English title and all the international titles are just Colorado Charlie. The director is Robert Johnson. It's an alias for Roberto Mauri. Story and screenplay are by Nino Stresa. His real name is Sigfrido Tomba. Cinematography is by Edmondo Afanti. It's in Eastman color and widescreen. Music is by Gioacchino Angelo. There's a song in this sung by Michelangelo Mignano called Cita alles tres, that translates to Appointment at 3, which is probably better translated into Showdown at 3. The main cast is comprised of Sheriff Wild Bill Danders. He's also referred to as Bill Carlton and Bill Bauer in the film. That's his name is actor's name is Jack Berthier. Nora Danders is played by Barbara Hudson, and Colorado Charlie is played by Charlie Lawrence. Other names you'll recognize in the cast are Pete Creonte, is played by Luis Chiavaro. That's Luigi Ciavaro. Tom is played by Hugo Arden. His real name is Domenico Sasso. Sheriff Hogan is played by John McDouglas. That's Giuseppe Arrabati. The judge is played by Andrew Ray. Real name is Andrea Aureli. Cara is played by Erica White. It's actually Erica Blanc, and this is her first Western. The drunk in here is played by Alfred Rice. That's Alfredo Rizzo. Bill Dander's son is played by Little Roland Wild. His real name is Orlando Martelli. I can find out absolutely no information on him. Pablo is played by Paolo Solve. That's director Luigi Bazzella. Story revolves around the famous outlaw Colorado Charlie, played by Charlie Lawrence, and his gang and a legendary lawman named Wild Bill Danders, played by Jacques Berthier. Wild Bill has hung up his guns and badge and decides to move away to start a new life with his new bride and her son. But the marriage is not even consummated when news arrives that Jim, played by Giorgio Serioni, the newly appointed sheriff who replaced Bill, has been killed by Colorado Charlie and his gang. After Jim and his posse have tried to stop the bandits from getting away with $85,000 they stole from the cattlemen celebrating the end of their cattle drive at the saloon. Bill's new wife, Nora, played by Barbara Hudson, pleads with Bill not to return to town to avenge Jim. Nora foolishly believes that Bill can turn a blind eye to the killing of Jim. Nora is infuriated with Bill and is heartbroken when he has broken his promise to her and goes back to avenge Jim and rid the town of Charlie and his gang. Bill has made up his mind to avenge his friend, telling Nora, "I must go, Nora. I must. Don't you see? I'm sorry, but there's some things a man's got to do." Charlie is captured and put in jail. Charlie laments after his capture. The great gunfighter, the noble sheriff, I thought we'd meet face to face someday, but it would be in a shootout. The two fastest guns in the territory fight to make history, a fight they would sing about. Once again, Bill returns to his family and his peaceful life. Charlie's gangs bring him loose, and the gang ride over to pay a visit to Bill. Bill has once again told his wife he is done with killing. The outlaws come to the store and beat up Bill. Charlie challenges Bill to meet him in the street. When Bill comes to, he asks Nora for his gun, but she lies and tells him she threw it in a river. The sheriff and the town council are mad that Bill came to their town under assumed name and want him and his family to leave town. This time, Bill backs down from the bad guys. As his family takes a buggy ride out of town past the waiting gang, his stepson berates him for being a coward, and Nora orders Bill to stop the buggy and gives Bill his holster and gun. The two men face, and Bill shoots Charlie, and he dies laughing in the street while shooting one of his own men. Bill then shoots down the rest of the gang. As you can probably tell, this is an Italian takeoff of the American and Western classic High Noon. Instead of the gang leader coming back to avenge his prison sentence on the lawman who sent him to jail, this Italian version has the Italian plot robbery once the famous lawman retires and leaves town. Like High Noon, we constantly see the clock ticking as the time for the showdown approaches. A bit too slow in parts, but the obligatory endless riding scenes, which tells the viewer this is a low-budget affair. A lot of Americanized names in the main cast to deceive the European viewer that this is an American film. The acting is above average and a bit surprising as this was Berthier's first Western, but he displays a confidence in his character that adds to the film. Lawrence had just transitioned from sword and sandal films and acted a bit over the top in places, but more than holds his own. The entire film is a build up to the final duel between Bill and Charlie, which is too soon done. The score is filled with soaring trumpets and performed nicely by Michele Accarenza, written by Gioacchino Angelo. Direction could have been a bit tighter, and Robert Hundar could have been a better choice for the role of Charlie, but these are small complaints on my behalf. It's available on Italian DVD and a Perseo label, released in 2008, also on YouTube. Actor profiles. Sheriff Wild Bill Danders, also called Carlton and Bauer, played by Jacques Berthier. Jacques Maurice Berthier was born in Paris on February 10, 1916. He was a poet, director, stage, film, TV, and voice actor. Berthier studied physical education before enrolling in a fine arts program at the Conservatoire Louis Jouvet. He went on to appear in some 70 films and TV series between 1942 and 2006. Later in his career, he worked as a voice actor in many films, dubbing such well-known actors as Raymond Burr, David Niven, and Gregory Peck. Berthier's dubbing voice was heard in the French version of Trinity Is Still My Name in 1971. Berthier was married twice. He married Suzanne Besnier in 1939, but she died when she was only 26. The couple had 3 children, all sons, Michael, Francis, and Paul. He then married actress Lily Barron. She was born in 1921 and died in 2017 in Neuilly-sur-Seine, Hauts de Seine, France. Is when Jacques died on April 26th of that year. He was 92. He also appeared in 2 other spaghetti westerns, A Golden Sheriff in 1966 as Sheriff or Marshal Jeff Randall, and The White, the Yellow, and the Black in 74 as Kelly Butler. Nora Danders was played by Barbara Hudson. Barbara Hudson is an alias for the Italian actress Brunella Bovo, a film and TV actress born in Ponzo Veneto, Italy, on March 8, 1930. She was the sister of actress Mariolina Bovo, who was born in 1934 and died in 1996. The actress was discovered by the Italian director Vittorio De Sica. She appeared in 20-plus films and TV series from 1950 to 1968. She's probably best remembered for her appearance in 1952's The White Sheik with Alberto Sordi. She died of pneumonia on February 21st, 2017 in Rome. She was 87. This is her only spaghetti western. Then we have Colorado Charlie, played by Charlie Lawrence. Charlie Lawrence is an alias for actor Livio Lorenzen. Born in Trieste, Italy on May 6, 1923, Lorenzen was a film, TV actor, and brother of actor Gianni Solaro, who was born in 1926 and died in 2006. Lorenzo was a heavy drinker but had a reputation of being one of the nicest and kindest actors of the Italian cinema. He appeared in 90 films and TV series from 1952 to 1973. Lorenzen appeared in 20 spaghetti westerns, but is best remembered for his appearance as Baker in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Angel Eyes disposes of him by shooting him through his My Pillow into his head 3 times. Livio died of cirrhosis of the liver in Latisana, Italy on December 23, 1971. He was only 48. It's hard to believe he looks much older than that. Okay, now we'll move along to Who Are Those Guys? And Stefan Zacharias. Okay, Stefan Zacharias. Stefan Max Zacharias was born in Hamburg, Germany on April 11, 1927, to Greek parents. He and his family moved to the United States in 1936, and they lived in the Bronx, New York. He became a U.S. citizen in 1942 and served in the U.S. Navy in the Pacific during World War II from 1945 to 1946. After being discharged, he entered the dramatic workshop of the New School in New York City. He was co-organizer of the American Mime Theater in 1953. While living in New York, he became a stage actor, producer, director, and head of the Seven Arts Theater. It was there he met his wife, Patricia Allison, whose real name is Patricia Allison Jones, born in 1933. As far as I know, she's still alive. She went on to a successful film and TV career from 1962 to 1993. They were married in 1955. Stefan made his film and television acting debut in 1964 television series The Reporter, starring Harry Gardino. He and his wife then moved to Italy in 1966, where he quickly gained a reputation as a reliable performer of character roles in genre films, including several appearances alongside Terence Hill and Bud Spencer. He also was a producer and director at the American Theater in Rome, where he produced several successful Broadway plays. Stefan remained in Italy until the 1970s before returning to the United States, where he continued to appear in occasional supporting and character roles. In all, Zacharias appeared in around 60 films and TV series, including Dallas, Three's Company, and Little House on the Prairie. He died from cancer on June 6, 1989, in North Hollywood, California. He was only 61. Some of his major films were Ace High in 68. He played Mr. Harold. Five Man Army in 69. He plays a poker player. A Man Called Sledge. He plays Red. They Call Me Trinity. He plays Jonathan Swift. That was in 1970. He plays Donovan in Return of Sabata in 71. And Man of the East in 1972. He's a stable owner. I'll post his filmography after we finish this podcast. Okay, next we'll move on to whatever happened to or whatever became of Dan Sturkie. Okay, Daniel Belton Sturkie Jr. was born in Lexington, South Carolina on January 5th, 1924. He was a film, TV, and voice actor in both American and Italian films. Dan's family moved to Lakewood, California, a suburb of Los Angeles, where Dan graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School in 1942. After graduation, Dan enlisted in the U.S. Army and fought in World War II. Like other military personnel, he ended up in France where the war was over and there met his future wife, a librarian named Suzanne Emile Josephine Angel Abiel. She was born in 1922 and died in 2018, and they were married on November 3rd, 1945 in Nice, France. Dan made his film debut in 1955's A Life at Stake, starring Angela Lansbury. He then appeared in several TV series, including Highway Patrol and Dragnet. Around 1955, the Sturkies returned to France, and Dan appeared in the 1960 French film Au Voleur in the role of a soldier. He was then signed for an uncredited role in 1961's Barabbas, starring Anthony Quinn. His primary line of work in Italy was as a dubbing and voice actor who appeared in several films and small supporting parts. Dan appeared in 5 European westerns, all with Terence Hill. He first appeared in Boot Hill in 1969 as a miner, and with Bud Spencer in 59's five. I'm sorry, with Dan Poey with Bud Spencer in the Five-Man Army as a carnival barker. This was followed up with his best remembered appearance as Tobias in They Call Me Trinity in 1970. In real life, Dan was an elder in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. I always wondered if this being the case helped him get the role as the Mormon leader and whether he was also used as a consultant in the film. In 1972, he again appeared with Terence Hill in Man of the East. There he's seen as a dice player during the saloon fight. By the late 1970s, Dan had returned to the U.S. and was seen in a 1979 episode of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, starring Gil Gerard. Dan's last credited role was a voice acting role in 1981's Wolfen, starring Albert Finney. Dan Sturkie died on May 10, 1982 in Hawaiian Gardens, California, at the age of 68. I'll post some of his other appearances as a voice actor were in Texas Adios. He voiced Franco Nero. Day of Anger, he was a voice actor. Boot Hill, he was a voice actor of himself. Cemetery Without Crosses in 68, he was the English voice of Lee Burton. Great Silence in 68, he was the English voice of Spartaco Conversi. In The Unholy Four in 1970, he was the English voice of George Eastman. And in Blind Man in 71, he is the English voice of Renato Romano. I want to thank actor and dubber Roger Brown for his assistance in putting this material together. I'll post his filmography after this episode is also posted. Okay, moving on, we'll cover the film of the week, and it's Have a Nice Funeral with Johnny Garco. Okay, film of the week is a 1970 Italian-Spanish co-production. The Italian title is Buon Funeral Amigos Paga Sartana. Spanish title is much the same, Buen Funeral Amigos Paga Sartana. The English title is Have a Good Funeral, My Friend. Also a present for you, amigo, a coffin from Sartana. USA titles are Stranger's Gold, Gunslinger, Have a Good Funeral, Sartana Will Pay, and Have a Nice Funeral, My Friend. Most of these are probably video titles. The producer was Sergio Borelli. The director was Anthony Ascott, who's in reality is Giuliano Carnameo. The story is by Jeff Simon, which is Giovanni Simonelli. Screenplay is by Roberto Gianvitti and Giovanni Simonelli. Cinematography is by Stelvio Massi. It's in Eastman Color and CinemaScope. Music is by the great Bruno Nicolai, and it runs 95 minutes. The main cast is Sartana, played by Johnny Garco. Ronald Hoffman, played by Antonio Villar. Jasmine or Abigail Benson is played by Daniela Giordana. Peng or Lee Su Tung, played by George Wang. Other names in the cast you'll recognize as Sheriff played by billed as Louis Hinduni, is Louis Induni, which is his real name is Luigi Radici. Samuel Piggott is played by Franco Rossell. Colorado Joe is played by Alto Berti. The Undertaker is Franco Pesci. Jim Piggott is played by Rick Boyd. Ralph Piggott is played by Rocco Lero. And Lee Se Tung's bouncers are played by Claudio Ruffini and Pietro Torrisi. Also playing a cowboy is our friend John Delaney. The title comes from Sartana's habit of covering the funeral costs for those he kills, but only those he kills. And he spares no expense, paying enough for plenty of flowers to cover the coffins. In fact, the lack of flowers that tips Sartana off to ambushers hiding in coffins on a wagon that happens to be passing the barber shop where he's getting a shave. Johnny Garco looks older and wiser in this film, also wiser with the filmmakers who delivered a much less convoluted plot this time around without sacrificing any of the Sartana conventions. So we still have clever dialogue, lots of gunplay, plenty of scheming and double crosses, and Sartana up to his old card tricks, and a new one, flipping a card from his often used deck not only as a weapon but to direct an adversary to a key passage in the Bible, to ring Lee Se Tung's gong, or even snuff out a candle when things get hot and heavy with Abigail. Yes, then there's Abigail, our damsel in distress, something sorely missing from the earlier films in the series. I mean, why have a James Bond type Western character if he doesn't have at least one beauty to romance? Once again, we have Sartana regular Franco Pesci, who is peddling his coffin making skills in another town this time around. And this film also benefits from a rousing score courtesy of Bruno Nicolai. The film is available on Blu-ray in the UK, USA, and Canada, courtesy of the Arrow Video Sartana collection. In DVD, it's available in France, USA, Germany, Italy, Spain, Brazil, and Argentina. Consult the Spaghetti Western database for more information. As far as actor profile, Sartana is played by Johnny Garco. Giovanni Garkovic was one of the premier stars of the spaghetti western genre. He was born in Zara, Dalmatia, Italy on July 15, 1935. He is a film and TV actor who is married to actress Susanna Martinkova, who was born in 46. She's still living. They were married from 73 to 86. He's the father of two daughters. He then married Luisa Garco. Garco appeared in 15 spaghetti westerns. We covered him in his own special episode number 30. Ronald Hoffman was played by Antonio Villar. Antonio Justinados dos Santos was born in Lisbon, Portugal on October 13, 1912. He was producer, writer, and film director. He was one of the most famous European actors of his time, working both at home and abroad, notably in Spain, France, and Italy, Argentina, and Brazil. In the 1950s, he became friends with Virgilio Teixeira, one of the biggest national actors seen in international films. He appeared in over 50 films from 1931 until 1985, but this is his only spaghetti western. Excuse me. Then we have Jasmine or Abigail Benson, played by Daniela Giordana. The dark-haired beauty Daniela Giordana was born on November 7, 1946 in Palermo, Sicily, Italy. The former Miss Italy and runner-up to Miss Europe in 1966 was a model, film, TV actress. She was married to photographer Emilio Latini. She appeared in 9 spaghetti westerns between 1968 and 1972. She later appeared in Trinity and Sartana Are Coming, a film which has no relation to this one other than the character named Sartana. Giordana died in her hometown on December 18, 2022. She was 76. We covered her previously in episode number 6. Last but not least, we have Peng or Lee Su-tung, played by George Wang. George Wang was born Wang Chengyang on November 12, 1918 in Liaoning, Andong Province, China. He was a director and film actor. Wang went to Italy in 1959 to shoot a joint production called The Great Wall, later named Last Train to Shanghai. After filming was completed, he chose to stay in Italy, where motion picture filming was thriving, and participated in the Mongols in 61, 55 Days at Peking in 63, and eventually appearing in nearly 50 films. He was married to actress Lu Yang and is the father of actor Don Wang, real name Tao Wang, who was born in 1945. He co-founded Wang Film Company in 1976. George Wang died in Taipei, Taiwan on March 27, 2015 from a heart attack. He was 97. We covered George in his own special episode, number 18. Okay, now we'll talk about the album and CD of the week. It's actually 45 and CD of the week. Okay, both of the soundtracks or scores for these two films are sparse. Colorado Charlie was released only on a 45 RPM record in 1965, came out of Italy on Ariel, Ariel, number NF 521. Contained, like most 45, just two tracks. I cannot find a listing time on this. There are plenty of them still around, and the value is only $2. The composer is interesting. His name is Gioacchino Angelo. He was born on August 9th, 1899 in Palermo, Italy, and died on October 14th, 1971 in Ostia Lido, Rome, Lazio, Italy. As the world of the silent movies died, American movies arrived in Italy and were dubbed, and the soundtracks were also changed, which I never realized. At times, the soundtrack was completely recomposed to reflect the melodic taste of the Italian public and to safeguard the Italianity of the art. This was a frenetic job in which the composer had to view the film and then compose the soundtrack in just a very few days. Angelo maintained a strenuous rhythm, providing the music for more than 150 movies. Often his name was not even in the credits, but among his works are some of the most significant American movies of the post-war era, such as Stagecoach, Hurricane, Genghis Khan, Pygmalion, and The Prisoner of Zenda. Famous movies with famous music. His total body of work includes 9 operas, 4 ballets, a mass, and a pair of symphonies. Angelo also composed the scores for 2 other spaghetti westerns, The Return of Clay Stone and $3 of Lead in 1964, which we previously covered in episodes number 111 and 135. Have a Good Funeral or Have a Nice Funeral was only released on CD in 2005 on a co-release CD. It came out of Italy on the Beat label, CDCR39. Has 11 tracks of music, listening time of 27 minutes and 56 seconds. Values range from 15 to $50 depending on the condition. The composer of the score was Bruno Nicolai. He was one of the most premier composers of spaghetti westerns. He composed 27 western scores. He was born in Rome on May 26, 1926, and died in Rome on August 16, 1991. We just talked about Nikolai a couple episodes ago in episode number 137. Okay, how about let's do, this was the CD of Have a Nice Funeral. As you can see, there's another score on this. Let's talk about Book of the Week. Okay, Book of the Week. A little background on this. My neighbor was born in Cologne, Germany, and she went over there this summer for 2 months and asked me to take care of her yard. So she asked me if she could pick up anything for me while she was there. I said, yeah, if you can find anything at all on Winnetou. But she knew right away who that was, and being born and raised there. So she came back. She said it was very hard to find any books on Winnetou because the woke generation has stripped them of the stores, the bookstores, of any content. But she did come back with this book here. It's Carl May, Winnetou und Old Shatterhand. This came out in 1997. It's basically a children's book for ages 9 to 12, and it covers all the Winnetou films. It's great. It has great drawings in it. Has 142 pages. It's in German, but just the pictures alone are worth the effort. Published uh, by, I'm going to blow this, Pestalozzi, and the guy who wrote the words, other than the translated the Karl May stories, is Johanna Nixdorf. Okay, you can find it on eBay. It's about 15 bucks. So if you want to pick up a copy, it's available. Okay, how about the autograph of the week? Okay, autograph of the week. Staying in form is the great Johnny Garco. This is the German poster for the film we covered, Have a Nice Funeral. I did not get this in person, even though it's signed over to me. My friend Eric Miche from Wild East interviewed him, told me in advance, so I sent him the poster and he had him sign it and send it back. So I thank Eric Miche. That's probably my only Garco autograph. Okay, let's go to Tom's poster attic. Okay, first we have Belgium poster for Colorado Charlie. Always great artwork on the Belgium posters. Here's the Belgium poster for Have a Nice Funeral. Then I have the Finnish poster. Not in very good condition, but I have a copy. And that's what I've got this week in the way of posters. So we'll wrap things up now with news of the week. Okay, not a lot going on since our last report, but there are a couple of things. There's a new German Blu-ray release of Django 2, which is Django Strikes Again. Came out in '87, directed by Nello Rosati, starring Franco Nero, Christopher Connolly, Liziana Lentini, Donald Pleasance. It's released on the WME Film Classicer label on September 26th. It contains one disc in German and English with a running time of 96 minutes. And then we have a new limited edition USA 4K release of 2020 Texas Gladiators. Came out in '82. This was directed by Kevin Mancuso, who in reality is Joe D'Amato, whose real name is Aristide Mazzachesi, and also Luigi Montefiore, who we know as George Eastman. It stars Al Cliver, Donald O'Brien. It was released by Severin Films. It contains 3 discs on 4K video, HDR10. It's in mono English and Italian with English subtitles. Running time of 90 minutes. Extras include a reversible wrap cover, Shoot Me, the real story of the Italian Texas Gladiators, archival interviews with director Joe D'Amato and assistant director Michele Soavi, and screenwriter Luigi Montefiore, and actor Al Cliver. Also, Gladiator Giuretta interview with actress Giuretta. And the third disc is a soundtrack CD. Boot Hill, we have Francis Batoya, and this came the day we had our last episode, but it was too late to get in the air. Italian actress Franca Batoya died in Rome on September 13th at the age of 88. She was a film actress primarily remembered for her role as Ruth Collins in the 1964 film The Last Man on Earth, starring Vincent Price. In 1972, she married actor Ugo Tognazzi, and they had two children, actor Gianmarco Tognazzi, born in 67, and director, assistant director, screenwriter Maria Sole Tognazzi, born in 71. She was also the stepmother of director, screenwriter, actor Ricky Tognazzi, who was born in 55. After their wedding, her film appearances would become increasingly rare. Her only Euro Western was Don't Touch the White Woman, directed by Marco Ferreri in 1974. She starred alongside Catherine Deneuve, Marcel Mastroianni, and Michel Piccoli. In 1975, Franca Battoia and her mother Maurice founded the Gran Loggia Femminile d'Italia, the first Italian Masonic obedience exclusively for women. And then last but not least, we have David Graham. He was a British film, TV, and voice actor. He died on September 20th. He was 99. David Graham provided the voice for characters in TV series including Peppa Pig, Thunderbirds Are Go, and Doctor Who. As the voice behind the evil Daleks in Doctor Who, Graham terrified successive generations of children between the 60s and late 70s. Graham trained in New York City at the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater with Sanford Meisner. Following service at the Royal Air Force as a radar technician, he began his theater and TV career. Graham met writer and producer Jerry Anderson, who was planning his first puppet productions. Graham said that he could pull off accents well, which led to his first voiceover role in Four Feather Falls as Grandpa Twink, who he based on Walter Brennan. He would subsequently voice Dr. Beaker, Zarin, and Mitch the Monkey in Supercar, Matt Maddock and Lieutenant 90 in Fireball XL5, and various character uh, in various guest characters in Stingray. Graham would also play Johnny in Crossroads to Crime, a live-action film Anderson directed. Graham was also the voice of Fernando and Big Ben, both bandits, on the British TV puppet series Four Feather Falls in 1960. Okay, that'll wrap it up for this episode. So until I see you down the road, this has been a Roberto Genesi production, and adios, amigos.